While nearly the entire world has adopted the International Metric System of Measurement, the United States still relies on a system of measurements based on the sizes of thumbs, feet, and leaps. So why doesn't the US use the metric system? Well, there were actually many attempts to convert from the imperial system to the metric system, dating all the way back to 1866, when the US Postal Service, by force of necessity, had to recognize the metric gram in order to accept international mail. Shortly after, groups sprung up to introduce legislation for the metric system's nationwide adoption, but due to internal disagreement, failed. About a decade later, though, the United States signed the Treaty of the Meter, which sought to standardize the metric system internationally for trade purposes. But as talks of putting a bill through Congress gained momentum, anti-metric system sentiments also rose. Perhaps the most vocal opponent was the International Institute, which firmly believed that the imperial system was superior based on the idea that it was somehow connected to the pyramids. They would sing, "For the Anglo-Saxon race shall rule, then down with every metric scheme, taught by the foreign school." The song also underscores the view of the metric system as foreign francophone invasion. Similar to today, many Americans felt a sense of national pride in using the imperial system, so not converting to metric was a matter of preserving American identity. Another major argument against switching over is cost. And while it would be costly to convert in the short term, it would be less expensive in the long run. In government, the metric system has been the preferred system for trade and commerce since President Ford signed the Metric Conversion Act in 1975. Shortly after then, many schools began teaching both systems. In the late 1980s, the government even began requiring that all federal contracts be in metric. It facilitated international industry, trade, and commerce. And how couldn't it? Every single country besides Burma and Liberia had adopted the metric system, and even those two are now in transition. So adoption of the metric system in trade was essentially a matter of survival for the US economy. But if this doesn't convince you that it would be less costly to switch over to metric, its non-adoption has costed the US millions in the number and gravity of errors committed because of miscommunication. During its Mars meteorology mission, NASA committed one error while converting between metric and imperialist units, which cost the US millions, including the loss of a $125 million probe. But despite the momentum within administrative levels, people stick their feet firm on the ground. Because the fact is, most of the changes instituted don't really affect Americans in their everyday lives, so they feel no real incentive to change. And even the government has stated that it has no plans to completely switch over, favoring the current dual system, dismissing pitfalls, and arguing that it gives Americans the freedom of choice between metric and imperial. Still, many believe that for practical purposes, one international standard makes a lot of sense. Now that we somewhat understand America's reticence to change, what other things does the international community get wrong about the United States? Go check out this other video to find out more. When compared to our international peers, we're falling behind in literacy and mathematics. Being loud and rude also seem to be some of the most popular stereotypes about us. It's difficult to suss out if this one's true, however. One thing Americans don't lack is confidence. Thanks for watching, and please subscribe.